I'm Diane Macedo. We're coming on the air with breaking news. Republican Congressman George Santos is now in custody after turning himself in on federal criminal charges. Unsealed court filings show he's facing 13 counts in total, stemming from wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and making false statements. The U.S. attorney on the case says in a statement, taken together, the allegations in the indictment charged Santos with relying on repeated dishonesty and deception to ascend to the halls of Congress and enrich himself. Senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky is here with the details. Aaron, walk us through these charges and what they mean for Santos.
Congressman Santos turned himself in just moments ago. He has now been placed under arrest at the federal courthouse in Central Islip on Long Island in the New York suburbs. And the criminal indictment outlines 3 distinct schemes that Santos allegedly used, as the U.S. Attorney Breon Peace says, to ascend to the halls of Congress. The indictment charges him with, at the height of the pandemic, taking unemployment benefits that were meant to help people who needed it during the COVID-19 pandemic and using it for himself. The indictment also charges him with recruiting donors for his campaign and using those campaign funds for his personal use. The money that was supposed to go for his election to Congress actually went into his personal piggy bank, according to federal prosecutors. And finally, the federal charges accuse Santos of making false statements to the House of Representatives about the source of his income, about money that he received coming in and going out. And so all told, they say that this is the height of deception by a sitting U.S. congressman who has now been placed under arrest.
And I want to bring in our senior congressional correspondent, Rachel Scott, for more on the repercussions here. Rachel, Santos has been facing accusations for quite a while now. What does this mean for his future in Congress, for him now to be federally charged?
Well, Diane, Congressman George Santos has been accused of fabricating almost every single detail of his life, from his resume to his background. And while he has been under scrutiny for those allegations, it is the focus of this investigation on the money, about how he possibly misused and illegally used his campaign finances that could land him in even more legal jeopardy here, where he could currently face up to 20 years in prison on the 13 counts that federal prosecutors are moving forward with. We know that Santos, for his part, has been defiant through it all. We have had the opportunity to press him multiple times about many of these allegations back on Capitol Hill in the halls of Congress. He has told me repeatedly that he will not step down, that he will not resign. It remains unclear how he will plead when he enters the courtroom in just a few hours, but we do know that he has launched his re-election campaign. One thing that is very notable here is that even if Santos is convicted, he could still continue as a member of Congress. It would take 2/3 of a majority vote in the House in order to remove him from office. And as we know right now, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, even in the face of these charges, has stood beside Congressman Santos. He says that he's waiting to see how this all plays out in the courts, but you can certainly expect pressure to grow on the Republican congressman to step down and resign, Diane.
And I want to go to Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl for more. John, big picture, what's the impact here to have a congressman now federally charged?
Well, first of all, these are serious charges. This is not a run-of-the-mill indictment. One that stands out to me, in addition to the campaign finance charges, the charges of effectively money laundering, are the allegations that he effectively stole money through the unemployment system, the extension of unemployment benefits during the pandemic, that he was getting these benefits, asserting each and every week that he was unemployed when he was actually drawing a salary at one point from his company in Florida and another point from his campaign. He was doing this while he was running for Congress. So these are serious charges. There'll be immense pressure on the Republican leadership to do something about this. Santos has already been stripped of his committee assignments. The question is, will Congress act to do the vote that Rachel referred to, a vote to expel him from Congress? I would not think that that is off the table. Certainly, I believe that would happen if he were actually convicted of these charges, but I think there'll be pressure to do it even with this indictment. One big factor here, though, is the size of the Republican majority. One reason why Kevin McCarthy has stood by Santos through all of this so far, there it's only a 5-seat Republican majority. Every seat really matters in this Congress. And in many ways, Kevin McCarthy can't afford to lose a single seat. But again, that said, these are extremely serious charges against Congressman Santos.
They sure are, and I want to bring that point to our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. Dan, what are the potential consequences here for Santos and the legal ramifications in terms of a precedent?
Yeah, I mean, look, he could be facing up to 20 years for each of the most serious charges here. And if you actually look at the indictment, you see what they've done is they've basically said that through wire fraud, counts 1 through 5, he's gone about getting the money in a fraudulent way, meaning getting people to go out there, claim it's for the campaign, then get that money, and then counts 6 to 8 are him transferring the money into his own personal account. Same thing you see for the unemployment. Count 9 is the getting the money, 10 and 11 is the transferring of it into his account. But a couple of big picture things to think about here. Number one is this is going to take time, right? From a political perspective, it's going to allow, if they so choose, Republicans to punt and to say, well, look, you know, let's see what happens in this trial. Hey, these are just accusations at this point, which is true. These are just accusations at this point. And a trial could take, 6 months from now. It could take a year from now. It could push us back to the point where George Santos is up for re-election again, and that as a result, as a political matter, the amount of time that it takes could allow them to postpone that decision. The second thing I would say about these charges, or what this isn't about. This isn't about George Santos lying about his resume. That's not what these charges are going to. This is about stealing money. And they're pretty clear here in part about what they were for, that Santos was using it to make personal purchases, including designer clothing. So they're trying to make the point that this isn't close, is what prosecutors are saying. This isn't ambiguous. This is money that he claimed was for his campaign that was used on things that in no way, shape, or form could have been used on his campaign. And the amounts that you're talking about on the unemployment piece with regard to COVID are even higher and more significant. And they're making the point, this is big money, this matters, and as Jonathan Karl correctly said, these are very serious charges.
Rachel, what's next for Santos today?
Well, Diane, we have just learned that Congressman George Santos met the FBI in an off-site location this morning and surrendered. We have also just learned, according to sources, that before leaving for New York yesterday, he did inform the staff of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy that he would, in fact, be charged. In just a few hours this afternoon, we are expected to see him inside of the courtroom behind me. And then the big question will be, how will he plead? Will he plead guilty or not guilty? We know that he has remained defiant in the face of all of the controversy and accusations against him. But again, one thing does remain clear. After this, he will return to Washington, D.C., and unless further action is taken against him, even in the face of these charges, he will continue as a regular member of Congress, Diane.
All right, Aaron, Rachel, John, Dan, thank you all. We're going to return now to your regular programming. For those of you in the West, that's Good Morning America, and we will have much more on this on World News Tonight with David Muir. I'm Diane Macedo. Have a great day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.